Welcome to UnityNow, the podcast where we discuss unity in the face of division. Inspired by the Unity 2020 plan, we strive to unite Americans by highlighting the middle ground between the two dominant parties and promoting the individual over groups. Each episode, we will bring you exciting, well-informed guests and host nuanced conversations about politically charged subjects. Our goal is to bring an end to the ideological war threatening the collective well-being of this great country.
And now, please welcome Michelle Dickson of Citizens Connect to the UnityNow podcast. Hey, Michelle.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today and taking the time to record an episode with UnityNow. We appreciate your time. How's everything going in your world?
Everything is going great. We're working hard on Citizen Connect and getting our members amplified and leaning into a great amplification program. So we're keeping busy, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I love seeing all of our members lean into it, and I'm excited to talk about it more.
Great. And as I mentioned to you, and as we always do, we kind of provide a brief introduction to our guest and the show beforehand, but then we always start by asking our guest to provide a little more history about yourself. So if you could provide the audience just kind of your background and where you come from and what you're working on.
Well, I come from Atlanta, Georgia, and then I moved to Louisiana for college, and then for grad school, I went to George Washington University in D.C., and I got my master's in legislative affairs. And while in grad school, I found an amazing internship with the Bridge Alliance Educational Fund. And right after I graduated, I took that as a full-time job. And after about 3 months of me being an intern at Bridge Alliance, we started launching the Citizen Connect website and was thrown into that as an intern, and I have grown into a service coordinator for Citizen Connect since that has become my full-time job. And so I handle all of our member relations and back-end optimizations and selecting organizations and events to be featured on our website for social media.
Okay. Sounds like a busy day, a busy week every week. Yeah. One piece I was curious about in your background, again, I'm just a curious person, that said something about working in the war room for the National Republican Senatorial Committee.
Yes.
And things like that. I'm curious, well, what that was like.
Most of my adult life, I have decided to take very partisan jobs. I've worked in the war room for the National Republican Congressional Committee. I've worked for very Republican senators and congressmen, and I will tell you, it is so tense. I mean, you never feel like you can kind of just take a moment to breathe. Everybody's running around you. I mean, when they say it's a war room, it feels like a war room.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just political strategy. But it feels like you're getting ready for battle. And so it's a very fast-paced environment, and it is brutal. It can eat you up if you don't stay on top of it. And, the people are they can be ruthless. I admire the ambition, but sometimes it is just ruthless. So I needed to get out of that life.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so back to the Citizen Connect organization. So tell us kind of a little more background of why that was started and what the purpose is.
So Citizen Connect originally started as an idea to bring together a massive group of organizations and create this one-stop shop for events that organizations are hosting. And it came from our partners at Listen First Project as well. So they host something every year called America Talks National Week of Conversation. And so whenever that was coming about, we all saw this opportunity to create a website for them to host it on. And so Citizen Connect was born from that. And we saw an opportunity to continue running with this and having this platform for not just events, but we've expanded to on demand content. So organizations that are a part of it can post their podcast on their toolkits, uh, op-eds, anything, and just have their voices heard, and anything that they want to be shared to the public, it's all right there in one place. And it makes it very easy for a citizen to go on the website and go through a filter and see, okay, I want to learn more about policy deliberation. So they can go through a filter and click policy deliberation, and a bunch of content and events will show up for that. So it took a lot of, at first it was just for America Talks, but I think after it, we really saw an opportunity for it to grow and become something much more than just a website for an event that goes on once a week, or a week for once a year.
Okay. Yeah. And I think we almost stumbled upon the organization by speaking with and looking up enough of these organizations, and of course, I think Braver Angels would likely be in this space, one of the more well-known organizations. And we've spoken with Bruce Bond of the Common Ground Committee on Friday. We're recording on Monday, the 21st. Just this past Friday, I spoke with Eric Bronner of the Veterans for Political Innovation. And I think he even mentioned that he knew you and was connected with the organization. So, but we, like maybe many others, we weren't aware of one kind of aggregator organization that was kind of collecting these organizations. And so seems like it is kind of born out of that idea to find the middle ground, the bipartisanship, to fight against things like you experienced in the war room, as you described.
Yes. It's, the people that you've met with, I remember vividly having my first conversation with them, getting them set up in Citizen Connect. So Braver Angels for sure is a massive player on Citizen Connect. Actually, I think 3 of their events are featured this week. When I was doing my selections, and I love Veterans for Political Action or Innovation. They're a great organization, so I love that they're all very involved in Citizen Connect, and them really leaning into it and embracing it. It makes not just me, like, it makes my heart melt, but it also makes our co-founders Morris Efron and Brian Clancy very happy. So that's very great to hear.
Okay. Yeah. And tell us about a little more about at least the selection criteria for these organizations. How do they become part of the initiative there?
We don't try to be too selective, because we believe that there's merit in everybody's voice, and that's what Citizen Connect is about, is making sure everybody's voice is heard. The only time where we've had to kind of sit back and deliberate whether we want some content or an organization on Citizen Connect is if we see that it demonizes another side, if its rhetoric becomes a little too aggressive. We've only had, that I can think of off the top of my head, 2 situations like that. But we believe that anybody who has the Citizen Connect spirit of collaboration and working together, and sees the value in bridging this political divide, has the right to be on Citizen Connect. So we try not to do a whole list of criteria. I think the only criteria is be kind, and then you're good. We'd love to have you.
So the RNC and the DNC would not be presented on the website?
No, they would not. Unfortunately not. As much as I'd love to have both of them on there for them both to host an event where they converse with each other, I do not think it would happen, nor do I think it would be a healthy discussion. So
Yeah.
right now, it's just people like Braver Angels and Common Ground Committee, but they they really do represent the people and do a great job of really bringing in a lot of awesome people who want to be involved in this movement.
And tell us about some of those events, and we can go back maybe to the that point because I just thought about something I noticed about the RNC and DNC. I think you had the former chair persons of each organization in a discussion that was highlighted. But tell us about that and or other events that you guys do highlight.
Well, I will say because I do select the featured events every week, I do know what's going on. And I also, me and a few of our other team members, as well as our interns, help enter the events. So we see exactly what's going on. And, you know, it is, it's hard sometimes when you see events that maybe you yourself may not agree with.
Mhm.
Um, but you have to think of the fact of that other people want to hear that, and it also opens a space for dialogue. So while you may not agree with it, it's like, okay, well, here's an event that offers an opportunity to hear why people think that way. So having these events where we have, the former chairman of the RNC and DNC together, it was definitely very interesting, but I know it went well. I, Unfortunately, I really wanted to. I unfortunately could not attend myself, but I heard that it
Yeah.
went really well. And I was very, first of all, just surprised, but thrilled to see that one of our member organizations was able to pull something like that together. We have promoted events that have discussed Roe v. Wade, the student loan forgiveness plan that Joe Biden has discussed, and we've talked about, the Donald Trump Mar-a-Lago raid. We've had events about that. So they aren't always the most, faint of heart topics,
I
but
was gonna
they are
say, yeah, nice,
handled.
simple, non-polarizing topics.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are definitely, some of them are definitely very polarizing, but how the organizations present it makes it a a very, I hate to use this word, but I will say safe space for
Yeah.
you to talk about how you feel about it. And people will not judge you or get angry with you whenever you say, well, I don't like this, or I thought this is a really good idea, because everybody in there is going in with the idea that we're all going to have different opinions. But the point of this is for us to discuss why we feel that way and understand why someone feels that way. And I think we've provided a great platform for that. And we also, Braver Angels has hosted a number of events of, what it's like being a Republican in a blue state, or what it's like being a Democrat in a red state. So we do have events that talk about polarization and content that talk about polarization, but they always do a good job of helping the hyper partisanship stay out of the content itself, but while discussing it and trying to tackle that in a healthy and safe environment.
Yeah. And I asked this question to Bruce Bond of the Common Ground Committee, so I'm curious, maybe you have more exposure as well to some of these events. Have any of them gone awry to that point where you unexpectedly went to that more polarizing place, people a little upset at each other?
In in the actual event itself, I will say, because I am on the back end, I do get to hear the critique after an event ends. So in the event itself, I feel, especially whenever people are, at least when they can see each other, people tend to bite their tongue a little bit,
Hmm.
and they don't want to cause a scene. And there also may be a lot of people in there, so they feel a little, maybe a little stage fright even to kind of step up. But we have received a few moments or comments after an event will end and say, this was deplorable. I can't believe you'd promote something like this. Um, an example, we had a organization that had a guest speaker. They said nothing wrong, but they did have the Bill of Rights, the first words of the Bill of Rights behind them. And the person got mad at us and said, you might as well be promoting the Confederate flag. So we will
All
have
right.
stuff like that happen and people will get upset. But unfortunately, with these topics that we do talk about and how people also just express themselves, not everybody's going to be a fan of it. So
Right.
you just have to say, I understand how you feel. I'm sorry that you felt that way. I can promise you that we do not support the Confederacy or anything like that. And if there's anything you want to do to talk about it, we're here. So we've run into issues like that in the past. In events themselves, especially if it's larger, not often, but we will definitely get the emails afterwards of how could you support this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would probably personally be a little surprised if I heard that it always went perfect and everybody was hunky dory and happy with each other and there were no tough conversations, because anything important worth, discussing isn't going to always be easy. And, you should have some reaction and some emotional kind of recourse within the conversation and afterward, I would think, at least. And so I'd be
Yeah.
afraid, or is everyone being honest if in fact, you get through it with everybody's, happy and smiling.
Yeah. I mean, if you get through a meeting that's about, abortion and you don't have one person getting upset, they're not being their genuine self. So, we've had people that have left meetings or left events.
Hmm.
That happens sometimes. We assume it's because of connectivity issues, or sometimes you can see the look on their face and see that they're getting upset, and they'll just say, you know what, all right, I'm can't listen to this anymore. So it comes with the territory whenever you're talking about something that can be so controversial and something that is inherently very hyper partisan. So yeah, if it goes perfectly, then that means you're not really going into the topic well enough, because it's inherently going to make you feel certain types of ways.
Right. Right. And, I'm curious if you could highlight for us. We talked about some of the organizations, and I went a little bit through the website. I mean, there are many, many pages of organizations. And
Yes.
so I feel like our audience knows probably the few we talked about. Highlight, if you could, maybe one of the more lesser known organizations, or maybe a newer one.
I'm going to, there's one organization that has constantly put out great events. They're very small. They're called Crossing Party Lines,
Hmm.
run by Lisa Swallow. They are by far, they're great. Their content is always so engaging. And, you know, because they are smaller, I try to amplify them as much as I can, because I would love to drive a bigger audience towards them, because they work on a small budget, but they try very hard to get their message out there, and it's a great message. And another one that I would love to see grow is the Great Reset. They hold workshops for preparing for Thanksgiving, whenever your crazy conservative uncle wants to go on a rant or something like that. So they host great things like that, and people joke about that and laugh about that, but it is something that you kind of need to prepare for. There is
Yeah.
always kind of that moment in a family gathering where the one kind of black sheep is like going on about their conspiracy theories, and you don't want to be rude and cause a scene and ruin the family dinner. So it gives you toolkits to kind of just be like, okay, well, Uncle John, I see what you're saying, but let's not do this right now. So it gets you ready for stuff like that. And that's one of the great events that I saw that they had. And I immediately, I attended it because I was like, I need to get ready for Thanksgiving, because I'm considered the black sheep of my family too. So I was like, okay, let's get ready for this. Um, so the Great Reset, that's run by Kalinda Fisher, another great organization that I'd love to see really grow and get more traffic on Citizen Connect.
And does that name sparks a little bit of conspiracy theory? The Great Reset, is that an intentional point, or do they believe in the Great Reset, or what's the story behind that?
When they first joined, I was like, wow, the Great Reset. Like this, there's some stuff going on. There's some like inherent like weird things with this, but it it's not what it seems.
Okay.
I know it was kind of Clinda Fisher kind of just it was a passion project of hers, and I think whenever she came up with the name Great Reset, I did get to talk to her recently about how the Great Reset came about. She wasn't more focused on the name, but she was thinking of more of like resetting how we think this of each other in this polarization environment,
Mm.
and not like resetting the whole like American government replacement theory and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that. It was just resetting uh the mindset of demonizing each other and hating each other, because I can tell you, before I got into the Bridge Alliance and Citizen Connect, as you saw from where I've worked in the past, it was very much in my mindset to demonize the other side.
Sure.
It it took a while for me being at Bridge Alliance and Citizen Connect to kind of take that mentality out of my head. I mean, most of the team that I work, my majority of the team I work with, all of them really are very different than my political beliefs. And at first, it was very bizarre for me. And so, whenever I hear of the Great Reset, I kind of think of me whenever I'm first leaving from like the war room, going into uh, Bridge Alliance and Citizen Connect, and thinking like, you have to reset how you think about working with more progressive people. So hopefully, I can't speak for them, but I will say with full confidence, no conspiracy theories behind that name, just
Right.
resetting the mentality of demonizing each other.
So folks like Alex Jones and Glenn Beck would be probably disappointed upon stumbling upon their website.
I feel like people like Alex Jones would be upset stumbling upon anything on Citizen Connect.
That's
So,
true.
so we'll just, yeah, they would definitely not appreciate the name, but we don't need them there. That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's a great reuse of that word to make it mean something more, I don't know, normal or more bridge building. Essentially,
Yes,
yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's
they're
people ask us about our name sometimes, like Unity Now. Does that mean we think that everybody should always be unified 100% and do it right now? And it's like, well, maybe we sometimes wonder, did we pick the wrong name? And it's like, well, that's not exactly what the idea is. It's more about, finding and highlighting folks that are looking for this common ground, and uh, folks that are actually creating solutions to these problems, and knowing that we're not always gonna we're never gonna 100% agree on everything, but there's far more common ground in most issues than you would ever expect to find if you're back in your bubble in your hyper partisan war rooms, and always looking at Team Blue or Team Red as the enemy.
oh yeah, it's very important to me to kind of bring together this. I hate the whole red team blue team thing. I've always, even though I have been in a very, before Bridge Alliance, a very partisan world, I grew up with a Southern Republican Catholic mother and then a
Hmm.
Democrat Yankee Jewish father.
Wow.
So very opposite people. I mean, they would be arguing about every election that came on. I remember, Al Gore and George Bush, their election. That was the first argument I think I remember in the debate. And from then, I just immediately was like, "Why are you arguing about this?" So I was exposed to it very young, and then I told myself when I was younger, I was like, I'm not going to be in this thing where it's like one side or the other. Lost sight of that for a little bit. My director of my or my legislative affairs program, first day of class, he handed me a stress ball that was a donkey and one that was an elephant, and he said, pick one because the people in the middle are roadkill. So I grabbed the one that I wanted to
Wow.
be.
Wow.
And so I lost sight of it for a little bit. And it took me, 2 years of being into grad school and then getting an internship with Bridge Alliance to realize that you don't have to be on the red team or the blue team. It's just about getting people together and accepting that we're different and understanding that we're different and talking about that. So I think the podcast is great. I love the idea of bringing together people and discussing this collaborative effort.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think we do our best, and we've all kind of told our stories before, but I came from that similar kind of red bubble and grew up in rural Indiana, where that was kind of the way to go. And so I'm surprised to meet folks that are younger and that have either never experienced falling into that kind of trap, I call it, or either or got out of it quickly. And it seems like you did kind of get out of it pretty quickly.
I got out of it very quickly, and I will say that the war room is, part of the reason why I did get out of it quickly.
Hmm.
My dad is a attorney, and his hair's turned gray around law school. And working in the war room, I found a gray hair, and I was like, I'm out. I can't handle this stress anymore. This is I and I hated not liking people. And I as I was I am still a conservative. I'm a Republican, a registered Republican, and I went to the most seventh liberal school in the United States, George Washington University.
Hmm.
And when I was first there, I was like, I'm not going to make any friends
Right. How
because
could you?
how could like I'm inherently supposed to hate you guys. The director of my program told me I should hate you guys
Yeah.
because then I'd be roadkill. So it was just exhausting being in that environment. And so the second I found Bridge Alliance I found the internship on Indeed. I was like, you know what? This is my opportunity to get out. This is
Wow.
my way to save myself, not turn gray like my father in my mid 20s, and start actually feeling like I'm contributing instead of just falling asleep every night and waking up every morning filled with hate. So it was a very quick out for me. I did not like the feeling of hating people. And once I joined the Bridge Alliance, my best friend who works for Senator Ed Markey now, we immediately became fast friends because was like, why would I not like you? Like, because you voted for Hillary Clinton or because you want to vote for Joe Biden. Like, why would I not want to be friends with you because of that?
Right.
That's, it's ridiculous. She's a great person. She's been my best friend since that happened. And I'm grateful that I got out of it because I would have missed out on some great friendships if I kept that mentality.
So true. Yeah. And everyone's path to this kind of individualism is different and takes a little bit longer or doesn't take any time at all. Some people kind of inherently born this way. And more power to those folks, because they a lot of those people have started these organizations. It takes a group of these individuals, I think, to come together and to have these like-minded ideas to be able to solve a problem instead of just fighting some other side.
Exactly. And you just feel so much more at ease when you're just not fighting all the time and you're not, you know, sitting on Twitter, like planning out these angry drafts to send to whoever just because you feel like, oh, well, I've got to go after them because I didn't like their news broadcast this evening. Like spending hours stewing over something Anderson Cooper said. I'm not going to do that. That's, maybe when I
Yeah.
was 20 years old, but it's just a waste of time now. So having having Citizen Connect and seeing so many organizations that are just like what we want and participate in it and will take part in amplifying other members who are hosting events or have content that they themselves would want to be a part of, and seeing them post it on their social media and it being posted by other people that know them and it growing and growing and growing. It just shows you that like you don't have to be red team, blue team. I guess as my former director of my grad school would say, you can be roadkill and it's okay to be
Right.
roadkill.
Right. It's the terms like that and like the politically homeless, and this is, things like that that I really don't like. And I feel like, I always refer to this. We had Angel Eduardo on the show, and I will never forget his line. He said something to the effect of, I don't really want to join any group because as soon as you join any group, before long you're walking down the street with pitchforks, and you don't even know what you're fighting, but you're fighting something. And so he would never, even think to join even something that might be considered, in the middle right now, like something like the Forward Party or Citizens Connect. He doesn't really believe in organizations like that, but it's from that individual nature of saying, well, maybe we all should really just vote our conscience and not join any team. Maybe that's really the way it was always supposed to be.
I completely agree with that. I mean, it's, I've experienced that myself of that in individualism. After I became a resident of Virginia and joined Bridge Alliance, I stopped. Whenever I voted, I wouldn't look at the letter next to the name anymore. I would I would study, and I vote. In previous elections since working here, I have voted for Democrats. I have voted for Republicans. It's it's who I think is best for the job, and I'm not gonna just vote based off of like what my party that I'm affiliated with thinks is best. So this individualism, I think, is a very important part, especially when it comes to voting. Um, and I think to promote Citizen Connect here, it gives you an opportunity Citizen Connect gives you an opportunity to educate yourself before elections. We just, obviously, elections had just passed, but we had a great election center hub that we partnered with Ballotpedia with. And it did a great job of just informing you on candidates, issues, and didn't say, well, this is a Republican, this is a Democrat, this is conservative beliefs, these are um, progressive beliefs. It just said, these are the facts, these are the
Right.
people, this is what's going on, this is what's at stake. And that alone, even though it is a part of an organization, it gives you that sense of individualism. Like, okay, this is what's here. They're telling me what is going on. And they're telling me who these people are without really telling me what letter is next to their name or who would, whether a conservative would agree with this or not. Just saying this is what it is. And they can decide for themselves based on that information if that is something that you can support or not. So we do a great job of trying to, while we are an organization, promote individualism and thinking for yourself and voting for what you think is right for you and your people.
Yeah, Ballotpedia, I was going to highlight, if you didn't, because it's something I've used since I think before I think I used it in the 2020 and I used it just, this month. And I mentioned it to my sister yesterday because we were at a Thanksgiving event already. And she asked, what kind of resources do I know of where you can simply find the facts about who, you might vote for? And I said, yeah, Ballotpedia is my go-to, and you enter your address, and it tells you basically who's on your ballot, and then provides links if they have it. And I don't think they're down to like the school board levels and the town councils, but it'd be great if they could work on that. I mean, that would help folks like me for sure.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's a great site, yeah.
I will say this. I whenever I first joined Bridge Alliance and then moved on to Citizen Connect, I did kind of like fangirl a little bit when I saw that Ballotpedia was one of Bridge Alliance's member organizations because I've used Ballotpedia since high school as like citations for papers and all that.
Great,
And so
yeah.
when I was like hired and they're like, okay, here are our member organizations, and I saw Ballotpedia, I was like, you're kidding me. You have Ballotpedia here? Like, how did you manage that? Like, I've always just seen them as like this massive resource of all things elections and referendums and all of that. And to kind of have them like humanized now. I mean, I know the people who work there, I talk with them. still fangirl a little bit because I love the work that they do, but it's amazing to see an organization like Ballotpedia in the bridging space because they're putting out facts, but they worked with us on this election center, and they were able to pull it off really well, and it went on. It was a hit. So having them on board is beyond helpful in this space.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. That's kind of what my go-to was with this election, Ballotpedia, to see what was on in my local election, the folks I would vote for, and then Common Ground scorecard to take a look at, especially, the U.S. House member that I was going to vote for and the senator that I'd be voting for, and see their scorecard. I was surprised that one of them had a fairly high score on the Common Ground scorecard, and after reading some other information, that's kind of how I chose.
Yeah, I honestly did the same thing because I am not a Virginia local. I live in the Fairfax County area, and I don't typically know what goes on too much in this area, but it is important for me to vote because I am a resident of this area. So I used Ballotpedia and those scorecards. My partner and I went through it, all like days before voting time, and we sat there and we talked about it, and he laid out what he thought was good points, and I laid out what I thought was good points, and we did disagree on a few things, but we were able to use those resources. And so when we went in and voted, we were like, we're not uneducated voters in this. We did our
Right.
research, we did our due diligence, and we can say with confidence that this is the person. We didn't have anything else on the ballot except a person. Or for our district for Congress. So after we voted, we're like, we picked the right person, but we think we picked the right person, and we were confident with it, and we felt like we were well-educated voters. And I think the resources that these organizations provide give you that opportunity to be an educated voter and know that you did your due diligence, and you can leave the ballots with good conscience, knowing that you didn't just vote based off of the letter or the color. You voted because you knew what your county or district or anything needed at the time, and that person or referendum could provide that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I couldn't let you go today without asking about the work that Citizen Connect is doing in Bridge Alliance and organizations that you're highlighting. How do you think it's going, and where do you see winning taking place? Where do you see, is Elon taking over Twitter? Are we going to be, folks like us, going to be less shadow banned? And is that going to be something that helps kind of achieve more national recognition and more national adoption of understanding things that we understand?
I think whenever you come into something like this, because it is such a hard space to be in, because it's so hard to get someone to just kind of give up their ways of like
Mm-hmm.
thinking, my partner is very, very set in their ways. And whenever I first told him, like, this is what I'll be doing now, he was like, you're going to do what? Why? So it is very hard. The ultimate goal is for this to grow. And, the whole Twitter issue, we've had just as many issues on Facebook. I mean, we'll have some of our interns or even employees cannot post because they've been banned by Facebook because of some content they posted, which has been approved by us. It's never been anything that's, saying like, oh, QAnon is taking over the country or something like that. It's been like, let's sit
Yeah.
down and have a cup of coffee and let's talk about this policy. Never been anything super controversial, but it'll still get taken down and they'll get banned. So,
It was
you
probably
know,
Great Reset, right? That link to them.
you know what? Maybe I have to go back and check. Maybe it is in the name.
Yeah, nobody reads that stuff, right? It's all the algorithms that pick
It's
up
all
those names. Yeah.
but our goal, of course, is for it to grow. We are trying to make some adjustments to help this expand because Bridge Alliance is different than Citizen Connect on how it operates with its member organizations. There is different criteria for you to be a member of Bridge Alliance than there is for Citizen Connect. Citizen Connect is, you just have to be tolerant and be willing to participate and be collaborative. Bridge Alliance, there's a lot more requirements. So we're trying to rebrand that so that it can grow and we can build a bigger audience for both Citizen Connect and Bridge Alliance, and kind of bring the two together instead of it working separate from each other, have it kind of merge into this cohesive one-stop shop. And so hopefully with that, we can grow, make our audience a lot bigger, allow more organizations to reap the benefits that Bridge Alliance offers that Citizen Connect may not offer. And with that, we just really want to see this grow, because we see it has such great momentum right now. I think we're up to 550 organizations in Citizen Connect, and it grows. I mean, in my emails, I've got 6 that are waiting to be added that I need to add after this.
Wow.
So it grows every day, and it makes you feel optimistic. So we do hope to continue to see it grow, and we do hope to continue to see these great events of collaborative efforts and these great toolkits that our organizations post and podcasts that they post that really help engage the audience and understand why people think certain ways about something that may be controversial to them, and really just open this environment to understanding why we are the way we are and accepting the fact that we're all different. So of course we'd love to see it grow, and we are doing everything we can to help make it flourish.
Okay, great. And I'm curious, one last question, I think, before we'll kind of wrap up is, do you feel, or do you even know that, did the majority of these organizations, did they start kind of after 2016 or 2020? It feels like a lot of them are fairly new, and that might be, there's a reason for that,
I can tell you the 2 that I gave a shout out to, Crossing Party Lines and Great Reset, are reactions of 2016 and 2020. So a lot of them are somewhat newer. But when we mentioned the bigger ones like Braver Angels, Common Ground Committee, they've been around for a while. But the smaller ones that we have in Citizen Connect, some of them are fairly new, seeing a need to be created after such, I mean, we were around for those elections. They were insane. And I used to, when I was in grad school in DC, I lived on Pennsylvania Avenue. I could see Congress from my window. And when the January 6th raid happened, I went up on my rooftop and watched it.
Wow.
So, you see these organizations being formed after stuff like, the 2016 election happened, and then BLM movement, then COVID happening and how COVID was handled by both administrations, and then everything following the 2020 elections.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
And the Stop the Steal, and people with this conspiracy of these random ballots showing up in a mysterious unmarked truck in the middle of the night.
Right.
So you see these movements being formed after that, because it's become so violent and hostile. I mean, January 6th I watched it. It was scary.
Yeah.
And I looked over at my partner and I was like, because he's in law enforcement, and I'm like, what's happening right now? Like, what are we going to do? So I know that a lot of them were formed after seeing such violent and partisan events happening. And they saw a need to be created to help fix this violence and hatred that's going on in our country right now. And I respect the heck out of them for doing that. I know a lot of them don't have the money or resources to do it, but they do it just because they want to help. So Yeah, definitely a lot of them have been created after seeing such a crazy reaction from our country from both elections.
Right. Yeah, and the reason I ask because that's certainly how I feel is likely what happened, and but I know you're on the front lines more of all this happening and these organizations being created and speaking with them, and I ask that because it's good to highlight that not everyone reacts in a way that says, well, I need to dig my heels in further and fight the other side harder.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have reacted in a way that says we need to stop this now, and that we need solutions, and not just saying, words like we need to stop this now. There's actual
It,
solutions being built.
yes, it's very comforting to know that while, all of this stuff is going on, um, there's people that have reactions of, oh, I'm going to put on a buffalo hat and take off my shirt and break into Nancy Pelosi's office. To
Right.
know that on the other side, there is someone who sits down and says, I'm going to get together a group of people who is worried about this country and wants to, maybe not the guy in the buffalo hat, but talk to people who were maybe a part of that raid and say, like, why? Like, let's understand your reasoning behind this. And let's bring in some people who think that what you did was an act of terrorism, and let's talk about why they feel that way, and let's discuss it, be civil about it. Maybe not using someone from that raid because I don't think they'd be very civil, but someone who may think like, oh, January 6th wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And creating that space to understand why we feel that way. So it's great to see that while there may be those more visceral, violent reactions, there is someone right on the other side saying, no, I'm not going to take this. We're going to talk about this. And we're going to bring together two people that may not agree with it, but we want to understand. So it's great to know that there are people that, don't have to respond to such astonishing things out of hatred.
Absolutely. And so, with that, tell our audience what Citizen Connect is working on, what's coming up next. How can anyone get involved? How can anyone help out?
Right now, we're still just working on promoting our organizations, getting some more on demand content up there, and getting some more great events up there. Obviously, with the holiday season coming around, there is a bit of a lull, but there is still some great events going on. Um, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have the strict criteria to be a part of Citizen Connect. So if you feel that anything that I've said reached you in any type of way and feels like that you could be a great contributor to it, you can always feel free to contact me. My email is Michelle with two L's at citizenconnect.us, and tell me all about your organization, or ask me any questions about an event or content or an organization that you want to learn more about, or just a topic that you want to learn more about, and I'll show you where to go. I'll send you some great content, get you in touch with some great people, and just help you find whatever you need so that you can see the great work that we're doing, because we have so many members, so many great toolkits and podcasts and videos and events that you'll never run out of things to look at. You'll always be learning something new. So always feel free to contact me. I'm by my Citizen Connect email 24/7. So I will answer right away and help in any way that you see fit.
Okay. And if you want to highlight that email again, or if you want to highlight the website or social medias, go ahead with there
Yes.
as well.
So my email again is Michelle, Michelle, at citizenconnect.us. And our website is www.citizenconnect.us. And our socials are all Citizen Connect on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So we're really easy to find. You can also find us through organizations like Braver Angels and Bridge Alliance. You can get to Citizen Connect through the Bridge Alliance Educational Fund website. Um, yeah, since we've gotten so many organizations on board, it is pretty easy to find us now. So you can find us through our member organizations' social media as well if you have trouble locating us. Yeah, always reach out to me too if you cannot find anything for Citizen Connect, and I will send you direct links.
Fantastic. And we'll, of course, put all those links in our show description and post on our social medias when the episode comes out. And with that, Michelle, it's been great talking to you. We appreciate highlighting the great work that you're doing at Citizen Connect, and we look forward to watching it going forward and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. My pleasure. And with that, we'll see everyone next time on the UnityNow podcast. Goodbye.